Good morning, Pete. This is Pete Wargent from Buyers, and I'm privileged to have Pete on a little catch up this morning and to talk about property for the leading clients. But welcome, Pete. How are you going? All right?
Pleasure to be on. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, all well here.
And still doing a bit of summertime in England. Yeah, enjoying it.
Yes, it would be nice to get back into Australia sometime this millennium, but at the moment, home quarantine still seems to be a few weeks away. So yeah, but enjoying the European summer, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, very nice. And recently I saw you doing property research in the Algarve, and I heard property research in Crete next. I mean, it's tough when you're at the top of your game. Today really I'm looking to get a bit of insights a bit more sort of locally in Australia. So yeah, look, we've just been through a pretty tough winter season with property. What's your feeling and thoughts about what we've just gone through recently?
Yeah, so we do a lot of market research. We've got a lot of property data that we collate and then report. And also as property buyers agents, we see an awful lot of stuff just at the coalface. So we get a bit like you guys as mortgage brokers, you tend to get an early read on some of the trends in the market. So normally at this time of year, you would be seeing Australia coming into the spring selling season. And that has kind of happened to some degree, particularly in Brisbane, but in Sydney and Melbourne, for obvious reasons, that hasn't really taken off at all. Transaction numbers are well down in Victoria. You can't even get to open homes in most cases. Sydney is kind of holding up, but on lower volumes. But I guess the dynamic really at the moment is we've got this big wall of pent up demand. And when we do get towards a reopening, which feels like probably mid-October, then we will see a rush, I think, between mid-October and the end of the year. And I have a feeling this year the housing market will run all the way through to the weekend before Christmas. So we're going to get a very compressed selling season this year.
From a property perspective, I believe, we've seen some really, really big increases in values of properties over the last 12, 18 months. Can this continue in the coming months? Is there that much demand?
Well, yes. I mean, in the short term, yes. I think it's obviously in the medium term, price growth at that rate is not sustainable. But the real dynamic at the moment is just a dearth of stock, and that's not just in Sydney. I mean, that's really right the way around the country. People have been somewhat reticent to list new properties, but they're just it's the oldest cliche in financial markets: more buyers than sellers, as they say, and it's putting an awful lot of pressure on the market. I mean, if you look at total listings for this time of year, we're down more than 25% on the 5-year average. So the stock levels are very low, and even the older stock is selling. So it's I think price gains will continue for the rest of this year. What happens in the new year, you never quite know. Election year, maybe there might be some regulatory intervention, or maybe as the property market and the international borders reopen, there could be a change in sentiment. But at the moment, there's a lot of demand there and just not that many properties on the market.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, so at Lydian, we're seeing the same, and we've got a lot of pre-approvals in place right now. People are sort of queuing up. A lot of first home buyers as well, looking at that sort of 1 million plus properties too. So there's a lot of demand and aspirational home buyers, and also we're seeing quite a lot of expats as well. I saw your article just earlier about the expat side of things, and we're seeing a lot of returning Australians coming to buy premium homes locally here. So I mean, that's a lot of the own home stuff. From an investment sort of lens, I'm not suggesting that we will hold you to this, Pete, but what would some of the top picks be right now, and sort of a little bit of why?
Well, yeah, it depends on budget really, and to a certain degree, personal circumstances. I think a very common situation for us is we have clients who are, for example, based in Sydney or Melbourne. They've seen the value of their own home go up, and they think, well, it might be a good time to buy an investment property. But quite often, if that's the case, then it makes sense to get some diversification and maybe look somewhere else. Now, there's been an interesting dynamic over the past 18 months because of the pandemic. There's been this sort of race for space, if you like, and a shift away from the higher density sort of CBD or inner city markets, and people looking for more space. So the markets that have been where the biggest price growth has been seen, places like the northern New South Wales coast and Byron, Mornington Peninsula, even Central Coast, New South Wales South Coast. So the coastal markets have been extremely strong over the past 18 months. I think depending on your budget today, I mean, some of the markets that people might start to look at now, I think places like the Gold Coast, where the rental market is becoming extremely tight. Maybe Adelaide will come onto the radar. I think one of the things that's definitely a feature of the market at the moment is people are definitely looking at detached houses much more so than units and apartments. I think it's partly a function of people seeking more space, and it's where the price growth is, and that's where investors have shifted to.
Yeah, perfect. And like where would you go to, if you're supporting the client? I know buyers offer the buyer's agency service for existing properties. What sort of research can a client expect to get from your website, your research in support of making a decision about maybe where to purchase a property and what those dynamics are?
Yeah, so there's a few things there. I mean, if you just want some free market research tools, check out our website at buyersbuyers.com.au. So there's a whole load of free property tools there. So if you want to do, for example, an area by area analysis or a suburb risk report, or even if you want to get a valuation on a specific property, all of those tools are there for free. If you want some guidance from us, we do have a product called WePlan, which is essentially a 10-year property plan where we actually collate a kind of a fact finder on your current situation. We talk a bit about what your goals are and what you hope to achieve, and then we help people to map out the next steps in the process. So if you want some professional guidance, we do actually have property strategists that can help with that. But by the same token, if you want to do your own research, there's plenty of free tools you can use there too.
Yeah, brilliant. And I like that. I think, certainly reaching out to people who are, professionals in that field and have got that local knowledge is important. But certainly if you're buying for investment purposes, definitely do your research and reach out to people. And then I suppose, we've seen a lot of innovation in the lending industry recently, with changes to the way that we can actually process loan documents, with DocuSign and technology becoming more integral with some of the product providers there. What are some of the innovations that we're seeing in the property services industry right now, Pete?
Yeah, well, but very similar in terms of things like digital signatures for contracts. And I think that is the direction the industry is moving in. Historically, particularly in New South Wales, I remember scanning in those big 50-page contracts and initialing every page. I mean, thankfully, we started to move away from that, and we're actually part of our IP is a buyer's agent portal where you can actually upload scanned documents and signed documents digitally. So that is one improvement. I think particularly at the moment, it's very difficult for a lot of home buyers to actually physically get to properties and inspect them. So, I mean, obviously we have border closures in Victoria. You very often can't even get to open homes. So there's a few different things that are happening there. One is that there's a lot of auctions happening now online via Zoom and other online tools. So that has been a change. But I think these days, even if you can't inspect the property, it's actually quite easy for a buyer's agent to walk you through. They can take you through on FaceTime or WhatsApp, and it's I guess it's not quite the same as being there in person, but it is definitely the next best thing. But there's a lot happening actually in the PropTech space, and a lot of it relates to buyer's agency. Things like there's much more data available now and market research, and I think particularly for investors, a lot of investors don't need to actually travel to inspect the property, and they can buy sight unseen with the help of a buyer's agent.
Yeah, definitely. Certainly having that trusted professional circle to support that process is important. Get your financing in place, then reach out to professionals to search and things. But look, thanks very much, Pete, for your update. I look forward to the summertime, especially coming out of COVID on the 18th. Enjoy your property research in Crete, and we'll try check in post that and find out if there's any top tips to purchase in Greece or in the Algarve. I'm interested to find out. And where would people sort of reach out to find Pete Wargent and Buyers team?
Easiest place is just at our website, buyersbuyers.com.au. So thanks, and look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you, Pete. Cheers.